Hey guys, Chris here with the Good Old Gamer, and today we finally got some news from CES 2020. Yeah, that's about how I feel about it. There really isn't a whole lot here. A lot of the stuff that we were hoping to see didn't quite come through, but there's a few bits of information that I found thus far that do seem a little bit interesting. Now granted, I didn't go through the entire internet, I just checked out video cards and Techpowerup for the biggest headlines to see if anything really jumped out at me, and like I said, there's not too much yet, but a few things did come up, so I figure let's go over those here today. Let's start off with the AMD stuff because most of the more interesting things seem to be from AMD. So we officially got the announcement for the RX 5700 XT. It's coming in a little bit cheaper than we were expecting. It's in here somewhere, but it's supposedly coming out at $279. There it is. Okay, and this will be available January 21st, 2020. So this is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So this is supposedly going to be a little bit faster than the GTX 1660 Ti, but priced at the same price. And I honestly think it's going to be probably in between the 1660 Ti or the Vega 56 and up to basically the RTX 2060. So that's not too bad at $279, but honestly, this is coming out a year later than the RTX 2060, so honestly, it's also not very good when you really look at it like that. NVIDIA will have a new card out next year that will be much faster at the same price, so take it for what you will. It appears that there aren't going to be any reference designs. All of the AIBs have their models pretty much ready to go, so we're not going to have the same fiasco that we had with the RX 5700. So for a lot of you guys out there, that's really awesome. Now, to what I believe is the most interesting announcement of CES thus far is the Ryzen Mobile 4000 series. Now, I'm going to go more into this when I just do my free talk and give you guys my thoughts, but we're looking at an 8-core, 16-thread mobile CPU. Now, the biggest thing to me is the 15-watt TDP 4800U. We now have 8-core, 16-thread with an integrated Vega 8 GPU coming in with a 15-watt TDP. That is unbelievable, and like I said, I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. And then for the 45-watt TDP, we have the same 8-core 16-thread, but obviously with much higher clocks. So that makes a lot of sense for the larger laptops out there, or even for smaller form factor PCs, 45-watt TDP is pretty good. According to the slides AMD put out there, we can see compared to Intel's brand new Ice Lake, the i7-1065G7, single thread, it's still going to beat it. Multi-thread, infinitely faster, of course. I mean, it's got way more cores and threads. And then in gaming performance, even with the brand new graphics core that Intel is touting, we're still seeing a Vega 8 being infinitely superior. So that is super impressive, and this is really one of the chips that I've really been waiting for, the Zen 2 APUs. Now, the other big thing with this is it is a monolithic die. This is one of the things we were wanting to know if they were going to use chiplet designs with their Zen 2 APUs. We now have it confirmed via the images from AMD that these are monolithic die. What does that mean for the future of APUs? Can they even make them in chiplets? Unknown, but for right now, it seems easier and more feasible to make them as monolithic dies because, well, that's what AMD is doing right now. So moving on, next up, we have the B550 and A520 chipsets. They're beginning to start production in Q1 2020. So anybody thinking that this has been on the roadmap for a while, well, they're just starting to make them, so you'll probably only start seeing them in Q2 at the earliest. I would say probably early Q3. And to finish up with the AMD news, the Threadripper 3990X is coming in at $3,990. I actually think that that's kind of cute. I mean, it's a ton of money, but it's a lot smarter to price it at $3,990 instead of $4,000 just because, well, you can. Now, for a lot of people out there, they're going, wow, this is stupid expensive. You're basically buying the best server-grade CPU money can buy. It's slightly cut down, and you're getting it for only $4,000. The most expensive server-grade CPUs are like $15,000 to $20,000. So $4,000 is absolutely nothing for this level of performance. So I want to get that out of the way. This is not for the average user. This is not for gaming. This is not for This isn't even for content creators. This is for professionals that really that make thousands and thousands of dollars because they need that processing horsepower. Because you can get away with running YouTube channels with much, much less than this. We're talking about CAD and professional level users out there. So there's going to be a very niche market for this. And yeah, the price I think is just fine. The really crazy part is 2.9 base and 4.3 gigahertz boost. That's pretty high considering we have 64 cores. Of course, it's going to be running at the 2.9, probably 3.1 with all core, but still, that's very impressive with 64 cores. And the TDP is only 280 watts, right in line with the 32-core Threadripper. So that's super impressive right there, that it's not going to be pushing out any more heat. Now, tying in with the AMD news, we have a picture of the new Project Scarlett Xbox Series X SoC. So much like the Ryzen Renoir APUs, the Ryzen 4000 mobiles, this is also a monolithic die. So looks like chiplets aren't quite there yet when we need to integrate powerful graphics cards. Just not possible yet. Okay, now the most interesting thing about this is they have kind of a rough idea of how big the package is, coming in somewhere around 350 millimeters squared. Now, the really interesting thing, let's see, they got the Xbox One X and this new picture side by side. So it's roughly the same size as the Xbox One X chip, a little bit bigger if you look at them, if they are scaled properly. So somewhere in that range, a little bit bigger, not super huge. But we're expecting this to have 60 compute units. This is going to be quite big. Taking a look at the 5700 XT, this comes in at 251 millimeters squared. And then we know that 8-core, 16-thread Zen 2s come in at about 70 millimeters squared. So we go 251 plus 70. So we're at about 321 millimeters squared. So that only leaves about 30 to, let's say, 50. Let's say there's another 50 millimeters squared there. Could they squeeze in another 20 CUs? Of course they could. It doesn't need to be 50% bigger than this because this has its own I/O. It's the reason why you don't need an I/O die. Just use the same I/O. And I'm sure they'll tweak all that stuff to maximize space. So yeah, they could definitely get 60 CUs in that tiny little package. However, if that is the case and it does have 60 CUs like many people are expecting, with 4 of them cut off due to, binning, they want to go ahead and maximize their yields out of these. So 56 usable, 60 total. It could theoretically fit on this package, and RDNA 2, if that's what they are using, could also be reorganized to conserve space as well. So I think that'd be possible, but there probably isn't any extra room there for specific hardware ray tracing stuff, not like what NVIDIA is doing. So my guess is, if that happens to be the case, if this is correct, and it does have 60 CUs, once again, those are both rumors, so take those with a grain of salt. This, we do know what it is, but we don't know what size it is in reality. If that's the case, like I said, there's not going to really be any room for dedicated hardware ray tracing like NVIDIA does. So more likely, we're looking at some sort of hybrid software maneuver, or they're going to use the CUs, the compute units, to go ahead and do all of the ray tracing calculations, meaning no dedicated hardware necessary. The third possible option is there might be another chip, an ASIC, built onto the motherboard or the main board that will communicate, and that will do the ray tracing acceleration. So almost like another graphics chip in the system, but its only function will be doing ray tracing. As we know, ASICs are better at pretty much everything when it's only built to do one thing. And that might be a way to save a lot of power and save space, and perhaps that's the reason why Microsoft went that route, if that's the way that they go. We don't know, just speculation at this point, but I do find it interesting. If there are 60 CUs there, it does not seem like it's going to take up any space to go ahead and add in hardware ray tracing, if there's any hardware ray tracing on this chip at all. So I found this pretty interesting with the limited information that we have here. Now on to NVIDIA. Well, they didn't really do anything. So we're getting 360 hertz displays. That's cool. Yeah, for the 5 people out there that this is beneficial, good for you. Congratulations. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you need refresh rates this high, you probably shouldn't be using LCD, honestly. I know we're trying to overcome the limitations of LCD because it's superior at some things, it's worse at other things. The only way to make it good at everything is to run everything at crazy high refresh. Honestly, it's a waste of computational horsepower in my opinion. We should be demanding better displays that don't need to run at such high refresh to keep images looking good. But that's my opinion. So yeah, they got that. If you're interested, cool. But for me, count me out. I'm not interested in it. And then NVIDIA announced that they have new drivers. So congratulations, you get new drivers. And yeah, Wolfenstein Youngblood now has RTX 9 months later. So yeah, that's NVIDIA for you. So nothing else really interesting from those guys, at least at this point. So yeah, moving on to my thoughts. All right, so that's everything that I found interesting in here, at least up until this point. If anything else comes out tomorrow or the next day, I'll probably do another video in a couple of days if there's anything really worth talking about. But in my opinion, the most impressive thing is the new Zen 2 mobile chips, the Ryzen 4000 mobile series, because this is going to revolutionize mobile. We're moving up to a whole new tier. Even right now, Intel's only got 6-core 12-thread as its maximum. So just like in desktop, AMD is now going to take the core lead. Their efficiency and IPC is pretty much on par. So there's really nowhere for Intel to go, and they're going to lose a ton of the mobile space. And that's a good thing because we need more competition in that space. Right now, it's pretty much just Intel across the board. I'd like to have options from both companies. And obviously, with AMD pushing Intel as hard as they are, this is going to get Intel motivated to really start producing. So alrighty, so the biggest thing is like I said, 8-core, 16-thread, decent clock speeds. Of course, the base clock's going to have to be low. If you remember when the first generation core series, the 4-core, 8-thread, I think it was the i7 720, I believe. That was very, very common back in the day, but it ran at really low clock speeds at its base. It just has to because of how powerful, 8-core 16-thread is in such a small power envelope. So 15-watt TDP here is the really impressive thing. Remember when 8-core 16-thread on the 1700 at 65-watt TDP was crazy? Well, yeah, now we have 8-core 16-thread down to 15-watt. Now, 15-watt TDP is not power consumption. TDP just means you need a cooler that can handle 15 watts of power, total dissipated power. Okay, so it can draw up to 20, 25, 30 watts. It's going to draw more power than this, but you need a cooling solution of only up to 15 watts to be able to use this within spec, which is super impressive. Moving on over, this is obviously less impressive because we do have 65-watt 8-core 16-thread, TDP CPUs already, but 45-watt is a pretty good reduction, and of course the performance is going to be significantly higher, 1.1 gigahertz on the base higher. So this is going to be used in most of your gaming laptops, that are going to be, an inch thick and have reasonable cooling inside of them. You're going to want one of these guys, more like the desktop replacements, and this guy, the 4800U, this is what I'm more interested in. I want to see this in like thin client PCs, passively cooled systems. That's what I want to see this bad boy in. So just going through the slides here, taking a look, this is gaming performance. Now, they don't have enough information. Okay, so this is in physics. So this is the CPU test. So they even compared it to an i7 9700K desktop CPU. This is the 45-watt version, but it's beating it. It's beating the 8-core 8-thread 95-watt, which Intel's TDPs are way off. AMD's, like I said, this might draw 60 watts of power, but this is going to draw like up to 150 watts. So it's pretty... AMD's are closer to what their TDP are than Intel's by a lot. So this draws infinitely more power and is slower than a mobile part. This is a desktop part versus a mobile part. It's crazy. I think we took a look at this one before, Unleashed for creators. Okay, so for example, right here, we have the i7 1065G7 again versus the 4800U. So this is the 15-watt part, and we can see how bad of a thrashing you're getting in things that many people will use, like, handbrake encoding, 40% better. That's crazy. 50% better at Premiere. The rest of this stuff, I don't really know. But these two right here, I use these all the time. And even before I had a YouTube channel, I still did some video editing, and I use Handbrake all the time anyway. So Yeah, that's super impressive compared to its brand new counterpart, which supposedly had that 35% IPC uplift, while AMD's Zen 2 is able to hang in there. Now, the Renoir APUs, that's not what we're really super excited about. Cortex mentioned it a few videos ago. It's the Picasso APUs, so that'd be next year's APUs. That's when the new graphics architecture is going to be brought in, and we will also have Zen 3, so it may be a far more advanced package than this, but the uplift from where we're at now with the Raven Ridge, and I forgot what the new one's called, the 3000 series parts, which is just, Zen Plus, this is a huge increase in performance, and the biggest thing is that huge uptick in core count, going up to 8 cores and 16 threads in mobile and low-power devices. This is next-level stuff here, guys. And for a lot of people thinking, 8-core, 16-thread in, the new consoles is nuts, this is how they're able to do it. I mean, they can get TDPs down all the way down to 15 watts on 8-core, 16 threads. More than likely, the consoles aren't going to be configured too much higher than that. They'll run at like 3 gigahertz all-core, so it's probably configured closer to the 45-watt TDP variant, but that's how they're going to be able to do it, and that's not going to draw that much power, so that means they're able to utilize all the rest of their power resource and heat management, so their cooling solution, for the graphics and the graphics cards. And they can tweak that power profile however they want. They can go all the way down to the 15-watt TDP if they want to, and that's still going to be infinitely better than what current consoles have, and better than what the vast majority of PC gamers currently use. So that is really, really awesome. I haven't really spoken much about the Xbox Series X, but hey, we got that die shot here today, so I had to start bringing it up. I think that is really looking good, and with AMD making such powerful and reasonably small, if it is 350 to 380 millimeters squared, that's really not that big. You figure that gets down to 5 nanometer, you're looking at, maybe 200 millimeters squared for similar type performance. That's going to be extremely powerful here in the next couple of years. And can you imagine getting your hands on maybe like a 65 watt TDP 5 nanometer chip with a 12 teraflop Navi attached to it, 8-core 16 thread, basically what's going to be in the next Xbox? I think by 2023, that might be doable. They might be able to start producing something like that, maybe 2024. So everybody thinking that, when I say the APU future is coming, most gamers are going to go with these. This is how it's going to happen. If they can break it up into chiplets, it'll be even cheaper to produce. I think it'll have a higher power requirement, so that might be the reason why they don't want to do it. 3D stacking is also in the works. There's a lot of ways that they can make it happen, but these small, little single packages are becoming so powerful that the average gamer, the only people that are going to need more are the crazy people that are trying to run games at 360 FPS all the time. And if you are one of those people, good for you, but the average person is good with 60 FPS on slower titles, titles that actually work well on LCDs, and then on faster paced titles, 120, 144 FPS, that's pretty much good for the average person, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Once we have APUs that are able to handle that at 1080p and maybe 1440p on the slower games, so we're starting to see the beginnings of that. It's starting to come to fruition. We can kind of see with the new Xbox and the new PlayStation, and then obviously with these new APUs, that direction and where that's going, and that's really exciting because, like I said, things are just going to get cheaper and more compact and smaller and lightweight and more energy efficient. Everybody's going to win. So you can have a little computer that you can stick in your back pocket, take it to your buddy's house, and it'll be able to play all of your games, and that's going to be really awesome. And if you need to do any productivity, hey, it's there too. That's what I see coming in the future. That's what the bigger announcements that I see here today say to me. However, nothing really said about Intel yet. I want to see what they have. Perhaps they didn't do their stuff, or they just didn't get their coverage yet. So if they have anything interesting, I'll bring that to you guys. But let me know what you guys think. Did I miss anything? I'll go and check it out. Let me know down in the comment section below. Like I said, this is kind of the initial looking at what we've got. Good stuff here so far. Nothing revolutionary, I'd say. It's more evolutionary. Just kind of setting the foundation for where I think things are going. Looks like it's starting to be set in stone. Probably the biggest disappointment is the fact that the RX 5700 XT is coming out in 2020. The entire Navi lineup needed to launch last year. In my opinion, there's no point in releasing any RDNA 1 GPUs this year. Doesn't make any sense. NVIDIA is going to have something new probably announced at Computex or E3, probably launching in Q3, because, you know, NVIDIA launches every 2 years. I know a lot of people like to say Pascal and Turing, it's like 3 or 4 years apart. It was 2 years and like 2 months. So every 2 years, NVIDIA comes out with a new lineup like clockwork, something AMD really needs to work on. And yeah, this card's going to be replaced by this time next year. So it's going to have 6 to 9 months in the sun. It's going to be the best bang for the buck at that price point. To me, it's a little bit too little too late, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Please share with friends. That really does help me out. And that's all I have for today, and I will catch you guys in the next video.